You are now listening to Project XX Cast podcast series.
Yes, people, we're back again with another episode of Project X's Xcast podcast series. And today we'll be speaking to the lovely people over at Way2work. But before we go into it, we'll get them to introduce themselves.
So I'll go first. So my name's Matthew Berg and I'm the Way2work business manager for the apprenticeship service.
And my name is Pasca and I am the recruitment and engagement advisor for the Way2work's apprenticeship team.
As you might notice, our young person is not in the building today. Unfortunately,
you're not the young person.
I'm young, but I'm not. I just look younger than I am. So yeah, I'm stepping in today, and I'll be asking the questions that our young people have put together to ask Way2work.
Brilliant.
So with the first question, what do you do?
So as a recruitment and engagement advisor, I talk to the candidates. I recruit as many candidates as possible. I also am the link between the candidates and the employers as well. So I'll also be contacting the employers, trying to get those vacancies, really.
Yeah, so as the business manager, so I oversee quite a number of the parts of the service. So there's the sort of marketing and communication side of things. There's also the resourcing side of things where sort of Pasca's work comes into it through the recruitment. There's also the sort of wellbeing and pastoral care for the learners when they're on programs. So looking at what sort of benefits are out there for apprentices. And yeah, just providing sort of information, advice and guidance where necessary. Like today, for instance, we were sort of advising a young person on their sort of next steps. You know, they were looking at doing an apprenticeship, but after sort of listening to them, we've, it sounds like a supported internship might be there sort of thing.
So before you were management at Way2work, did you have any other positions?
Yeah, so, I mean, I suppose I'll start with my sort of journey, which actually started with Way2work. So started as an apprentice 10 years ago now. Yeah, a long time. With Achieving for Children. So I worked at the training centre in Twickenham, sort of setting up the rooms, covering reception, doing sort of work in the office. And then, so that was studying for my business administration level 2 apprenticeship. Then once I completed that, I moved on to my level 3 business administration apprenticeship. Then I was offered a full-time role within Achieving for Children. After sort of 2 years, the manager who managed the facility sort of decided that they wanted to step down and they thought that I'd be sort of an excellent candidate for the role at 22. Having management responsibility, it was a bit sort of scary, particularly as the people I was managing were sort of 10, 15 years older than me. Yeah. So yeah, I was given that opportunity. And then after sort of a year or two within that role, I then did a team leading and supervisor apprenticeship, level 3. So sort of, I know my way around apprenticeships, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then as sort of time went on, the training centre actually fell underneath the learning and development sort of arm of Achieving for Children, and apprenticeships and learning and development. It made sense to merge those sort of services. And then again, the recruitment and engagement advisor at the time decided that she wanted to retire. I think it was her third time at retiring. Her name is Mary Castledine. She's well known in the apprentice world within Richmond Borough, I think. And so yeah, I started leading on sort of doing a bit of the work that Pasca does. And then again, the manager at that time, he moved on. Barry Guy doing his ghost hunting series. And so that position became available. And yeah, I find myself where I am today. Yeah. So a bit of a journey.
So basically, you actually use Way2work, and then now you're running Way2work. So basically, to any young people out there that come to Way2work in 10 years, you can take Matt's job.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
No, I think that's one of the good things, though, about like Way2work apprenticeships and Achieving for Children is that, you know, we really can support you to, you know, further your career and sort of let you grow in a business that you're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can look across Achieving for Children. We're focusing on Achieving for Children because obviously it's where we work. Yeah. Obviously our apprentices go on to all sorts of different journeys, but you know, we've had apprentices who started with us who then ended up as a director, associate director of finance for the organisation, and we've also got someone who's the head of the education business partnership service as well. So all of those guys actually started off as an apprentice with Way2work, and they've really developed over the years.
So what areas do you cover?
So we cover Kingston and Richmond, and Windsor and Maidenhead. Those are our 2 operational areas.
So is most of the apprenticeships you get in those areas, or could they be outside of those areas?
The majority of the apprenticeships that we get are in those areas. We can get some apprenticeships sort of in other areas, but we have to sort of be a bit careful because other local authorities, they will have their own apprenticeship schemes. So we have to make sure that we're sort of not stepping on their toes, or, if they've got, for example, a teaching assistant apprenticeship, then we won't be sort of contacting the schools and stuff because they've already got that sort of covered.
Cool. How long have you been giving support to young people?
Do you mean the Way2work in general, or us personally in our roles?
Well, both really.
Okay, well, I suppose with Way2work, were established in 1983.
Okay.
I bet you weren't expecting me to have that level of detail. So, they were established in 1983, and they were essentially Richmond Council's, London Borough of Richmond upon Thames, apprenticeship service. So they've been sort of delivering it since then. Apprenticeships, like I said, I did mine 10 years ago, but again, work with people within the organisation who did theirs 15, 20 years ago. So yeah, that's how long Way2work have been supporting young people. And then personally, I'd say
Forever.
I've been probably sort of 2 to 3 years, but it was something completely different to what I was doing before, where I was managing the building, because we have sort of adult professionals coming in. So now it was actually working with young people, where that's mainly what Achieving for Children does, but we were always in this sort of role within the back office, whereas now this is a lot more sort of like front line, and you can see the difference you can make to people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, so me personally, I've been working so my background is sort of in education. So I've sort of been supporting young people from even when I was back in school. I used to go down to like the local primary school and sort of help children to read during my...
Those, you're such a hero.
What can I say?
Sorry, that was not sarcastic at all. Like, I genuinely mean that. One of the good ones.
Yeah, so like during like my lunch breaks and stuff, I'd go down there and sort of support them to read. And then after I did that, I worked in a school for a year as a teaching assistant, and then I moved schools and worked as a one-to-one. So I worked really closely with children with special educational needs, lots of different types of special educational needs, and I absolutely loved it. And then I trained to be a teacher, which I didn't love so much, but I still really enjoyed it. I think definitely sort of supporting young people is a big passion of mine. And previously I worked in the job centre before I did this job, and I just found it so rewarding. Sort of, there I was helping not only young people, but also, vulnerable adults as well. And yeah, I loved it. And then I saw this role sort of pop up on Indeed, and I just thought, you know what, this sounds really interesting. Sounds like it's going to merge sort of my experience of the job centre and teaching sort of together. And it still means that I'm working sort of with young people and with vulnerable people as well. Yes, so far so good.
Pasca's actually quite new to the service, and I think as you can hear her say there, you can see why we sort of decided that she'd be a great fit for that role. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. My next question was, how do you provide support to the young people you work with?
So a lot of the support that we kind of provide, separate, I guess, sort of from the apprenticeships, is kind of around information, advice and guidance. So we get a lot of young people who maybe don't necessarily know what to do next. They might sort of think, I don't want to go to university, I don't want to go to college, what other options do I have? So, we'll discuss with them sort of like the benefits of an apprenticeship, but also the benefits of sort of other routes as well. We don't sort of just want to limit it to kind of solely what we do, but sort of we really do believe that kind of helping the young person as a whole, really does support them and give them kind of like the best stepping stone, I guess, to their next steps.
Yeah, and I think what we try to do is we try to empower them to sort of start making decisions on their own and really build their confidence, even if it's just something I know from my experience when I was sort of a young person looking for an apprenticeship, it's scary, and even just like come in to visit us and speak with us about it is actually sort of a massive step and is a real confidence builder. So I think we pride ourselves on the sort of the soft skills and developing and nurturing sort of young people hopefully into an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And as Pascal said, that is part of the apprenticeship that we offer, is we work on those skills. And there might be things outside of the education element of it, like it's a pension, all of those sorts of things.
Cool.
We still support them with.
Yeah, because I think it's quite hard for young people, especially now, to sort of even get into industries that they're interested in, because a lot of people, will ask for experience and stuff like that, and they just, they don't have it.
Yeah.
So I think, especially with the apprenticeship route, it's a great way for them to get their foot in the door, go into an industry where they know that they're training, so they're not expecting them to kind of have any kind of experience or knowledge around what they're doing. And yeah, it sort of helps them to get into that industry and learn at a pace that's sort of right for them.
And the good thing also, I think, with, a lot of sort of colleges, they require certain grades to get into them. With an apprenticeship, you don't actually need to have your maths and English GCSE, and that's also something that we can support people with.
Yeah, that's a big barrier for a lot of the young people, where they just think, I haven't got maths and English, which is the main things. There's no point.
Yeah, exactly. So we make sure that they are, because we've got different level apprenticeships. Cool. So depending on their level of English and maths, it might be that they're suited to a certain level over others. It really does feel like apprenticeships are for anyone who, feel like they might not have done so well at school perhaps.
Yeah.
And also those who did do well at school. Yeah. It's for either.
And also with the apprenticeships, like, for example, like sometimes young people might think, I want to do this job, but they don't really know what it entails. So if they go into an apprenticeship and they realise, actually, I'm not cut out for this, are they able to come back and maybe like look for another apprenticeship in another sector? Yeah,
so, it's something else that we sort of, we're quite proud of, is that we provide impartial information, advice and guidance. So, obviously in our interest, we'd love them to sort of stay with us and carry on with their apprenticeship that we've got them into. But, if they've just felt after a month or two that, it's really something that they're not enjoying, but they've, they were brave and actually taking that step and trying it, then again, obviously we'll make sure it is definitely the decision they want to make, and then we will support them in their next step, whether that be at a different organisation doing the same apprenticeship, or whether that be an apprenticeship that we don't even offer.
Okay. Next question would be, what apprenticeships do you offer? What are the different types of apprenticeships?
So we do a teaching assistant apprenticeship, level 3. We also do early years childcare. So we do early years practitioner, level 2, and early years educator, level 3. So that would be more sort of like working in a nursery school. Whereas with the teaching assistant one, it would be more sort of like in a primary school.
It can be secondary, but I think, a lot of our sort of schools are from
primary. We also do customer service practitioner, level 2, and business administration, level 3 as well. So, customer service and business administration can really go, I believe anyway, in any kind of industry. Everybody sort of needs customer service for their business, and business administration, So, so they're really quite wide and varied, I'd say.
Yeah, most businesses, they have an office or they have some kind of administration work to do, whether that being sort of paying bills, covering reception, all the way through to, managing social media platform or, managing small projects such as like promotional events for a particular business. And they do vary, like Pascal said. We've got a lot of strong links with local schools and local nurseries. But, we've got, I think at the moment, we've got vacancies available for a travel agency, a recruitment agency, and sort of an outdoor
tech.
Fitness company. So even though you might think, customer service, but you're actually getting your foot in the door in a particular, in one of those industries where after you've done that, it's not to say that, your career from then on is just going to be in customer service. It might be that you expand to another part of the business, perhaps.
Cool.
And I think the good thing as well with a lot of our employers, they are looking to hire sort of once the apprenticeship is finished as well.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it depends on how the apprenticeship goes and their budget and things like that. But, you know, a lot of them do take on apprentices to then, in mind, to sort of hire them at the end as well. So, you know, we are as well in the business of kind of finding people sustainable employment afterwards. And sort of like Matt said, they don't have to stay in that industry, you know, but the fact that they then got experience, they've got, you know, loads of skills now that are transferable, you know, can really sort of help them, give them that step up in sort of other areas that they're interested in as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so like I can just think of sort of two examples. There's a young lady, and she, you know, she started out doing a business administration level 3 apprenticeship. And even before her apprenticeship finished, they were so impressed with her that they offered her a position as contracts manager, which is, it was a big promotion.
Yeah.
It's not just in terms of salary, but responsibility, but they obviously saw something there. And that's what we're saying about just getting the foot in the door. And, you know, she's developed those skills, even though her main passion was football.
Yeah.
She, you know, she plays for Brentford Ladies, I think. But she's doing that alongside that. So it's not to say that, you know, you have to shut yourself off from from that passion that you might have, because generally the apprenticeships that we offer, you know, you're working, if it's a full-time apprenticeship, you're working 9 till 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
So you do have that time in the evenings to do, you know, whatever sort of interest you've got, whether that's socialising or if you do have a hobby.
I think it's also good to note that during those contracted hours, you get 6 hours off the job training. So that's time for you to work on your apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So we're not expecting you to kind of work on your apprenticeship in your free time.
Yeah.
You know, you have those hours per week to be able to work on it.
So it'd be like a thing maybe they do Monday to Thursday and then they have a day to study. Is it kind of like that?
I mean, yeah, different employers sort of want to work it differently.
Yeah.
Some employers will say, okay, you get an hour at the end of each day, 2 hours on Friday. Some employers, will say just work from home on Friday and, you know, you can work on your apprenticeship sort of stuff then.
But yeah, and in terms of the progression from some of those, so what I mean by that is what you would move on to after you've completed your apprenticeship is, you know, for the teaching assistant apprenticeship, you know, we've seen people who they will be, like Pascal said, a lot of the employers, if they're happy, they want to keep that person, so they'll offer them a full-time position, or it might be that they decide that they want to continue to study teaching, so they might go on to like the Open University or something and move in that sort of direction. In terms of the childcare vacancy, apprenticeship, you know, they, once they've completed the apprenticeship there, then they can move on to become eventually a nursery manager. You know, once you've got that level 3 apprenticeship in childcare, you can do quite a lot within that industry, you know, and you could do your own sort of private jobs as a nanny, where you can get, you know, quite good money for that sort of thing. And they're going to see that sort of certificate and be sort of really impressed with that.
If a young person came in and maybe they didn't want to do the childcare stuff that you, or the other apprentices you had, and they wanted to say, for example, like, I wanted to get into construction or something a bit more hands-on. Obviously, if you don't have those, do you have partners that you could point them to if you didn't have the apprenticeships that they were looking for? Do you have any other that they can work with?
So we definitely try and sort of link up with other people that do apprenticeships that are different for us as well, different from us as well, you know, so we can sort of, you know, point them in the right direction and things like that. So that kind of goes with our sort of information and guidance as well. We do have people that, so for example, yesterday we went to Harlequins for an event, which was really good actually. I really enjoyed it. And there was somebody there who does things like sports apprenticeships and stuff. Cool. And I was just like, oh, amazing. You know, like I know that we sort of get people sometimes that might be interested in doing something like sports. So, you know, we exchange contact details and, you know, I said to them, I'm more than happy, you know, if we get anybody that is interested in that to signpost them to you and vice versa. So it's good sort of having those links as well with other apprenticeships. So it's not just like we're sort of like, we only do this and, you know, this is all we're sort of focused on. We are really focused on sort of helping them out.
That's really good to know, because like you say, a lot of young people will probably just see, for example, if they saw a flyer and it just had that on there, think there's no point in me contacting. But then basically from what you're saying is, no matter what you might be thinking of doing, still come in contact, because you can help them out another way maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
What age group do you work with?
Apprenticeship. So the apprenticeships that we offer are, so we work with anyone 16 and over. So apprenticeships are for all ages now. Of quite a few years ago, they used to be just for sort of 16 to 24-year-olds, but they are for all ages now. And I mean, as Achieving for Children, you know, where we've got some young people who access our services, whether it be through like the youth services or, you know, some of the other services that AFC offers, you know, if they're interested in an apprenticeship, then they can always be sent our way to give them sort of information. But we are also someone...
Be a mum who's had kids and, you know, had a bit of a career break and just wants to get back into work. Could be somebody who just wants to change industry that they're in as well.
Yeah, it could be someone who's come from sort of overseas and they see an apprenticeship as a good way to start trying to develop a career in the UK.
Anyone and everyone, so long as you're over 16.
Yeah. But even if those guys, you know, they're considering their next steps, you know, like Pascal was saying, we're at the Harlequins recruitment fair yesterday, and you know, they would be interested if, you know, we had like 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds there who are all considering their next steps.
The next question we had there was, what is the success rate with people that do the apprenticeships with you?
Our success rate is above the sort of the national average.
And last question would be, what is your main goal at Way2work?
So our sort of main goal, again, as I said, because we do have that sort of link with Achieving for Children, is to deliver outstanding apprenticeships to all. I suppose it's a bit of a given. That's our main objective.
And before we go, you don't want to give any contact details, website, phone number. How do young people get in contact with you guys?
So you can always have a look at our website for our current vacancies. So that is www.way2work.org.uk. So all of our vacancies are on there. There's also our contact details on there as well. But you can always email us on way2work@achievingforchildren.org.uk. Again, the 2 is the number 2. And if you are interested in doing an apprenticeship, then, you know, we would say fill out an expression of interest form, which you'll find on our website, and we'll sort of be in touch. So, I mean, do you want to know a little bit about the process? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the process sort of with apprenticeships is, like for us on like the recruitment side, is we would have an initial meeting with you. We'd have a sort of a chat, find out what your interests are. You know, what is it about an apprenticeship that sort of, you know, you're interested in. We will kind of ask as well about your qualifications, just to double check. Assuming you sort of want to continue on the apprenticeship route, we'll invite you down to Twickenham Training Centre to complete a couple of assessments. So these assessments are, you know, they're nothing to be scared of. They are, you know, fairly basic. So we do a skills scan. So this is just really for us to understand your baseline knowledge, you know, around what you will be learning about when you're on the apprenticeship. And then also an initial assessment. So that these are just about 3 questions similar to those that you'd get on the apprenticeship, just for you to answer. You can go and do your own research as well, because you'll be doing it on a computer, so that's okay. If you don't have English and maths qualifications, we will sort of do a little assessment as well for the English and maths. But we won't be like, oh, you failed, or, you know, anything like that. That's just to sort of see what level you're currently at and figure out which level of apprenticeship is sort of best for you as well. Then we'd start sending out your CV to employers sort of, you know, that of your choice. If you don't have a CV, that's not a problem at all. We can sort of, you know, help you create a CV as well, you know, to really sort of showcase your skills, especially if you don't have sort of previous work experience. It'll be really focused on sort of, you know, what your current interests are, what if you have done anything like work experience or volunteer work, you know, things like that as well. And then the employers would do their own interviews to obviously make sure that they are the right person for their business. And then after that, hopefully they will be on the apprenticeship. So yeah, that's sort of like a little bit about how we kind of go about recruiting.
The expression of interest form, super quick to complete, just contact details, then we can just have that conversation with you where we can, like as Pascal said, really get to know you as a person and what your interests are.
Thanks a lot for that. That was a very insightful podcast interview.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Dwayne.
Yeah, so people, that brings us to the conclusion. Sorry, I can't even speak today. Conclusion to another episode of Xcast. And today we had the lovely people down at Way2work, helping young people progress in life and get apprenticeships. So tune into our next episode. I think we might do a part 2 and get you lot to interview some young people to see what they want.
Yeah, we'd be up for that, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt's pretty young, so he could probably be classed as a young person.
I'll take that. One of our colleagues' son referred to me as a 40-year-old, which I'm actually not.
You don't look at it,
That
so
was
don't worry.
took offence to that.
So there you have it. Xcast, see you soon.
You are now listening to Project X Cast podcast series.